Media.
Hi, my name is Ronnie Cruz. After almost 2 decades as a career network marketer, I realized that despite continual work on my personal and professional development, that I had hit a massive brick wall. So I took a deep and honest look at myself, top to bottom, hoping to find answers, and my search led me to one conclusion. The definitions I held of my business, of my world, of my life were the very things holding me back. If I wanted to change, if I wanted to grow beyond my current circumstances, I had to wipe the slate clean and redefine. This show is dedicated to helping you identify the belief systems, the mindsets, the very definitions that have held you back, and then help you break through those limitations to finally create the life you've been working so hard to achieve. Welcome to the Redefine Podcast.
All right, happy podcast day. Welcome to a very late Tuesday episode. I'm down here on the vineyard once again, mainly because it's a quiet, it's one of the quiet places. Well, okay, so let me backtrack. It's one of the more easily accessible quiet areas on the mountain. We've got plenty of quiet areas, but they're not as easily accessible as the vineyard here. And I needed to scoot away from the house because there's definitely not a lot of quiet happening because we just got a new puppy. Within the last 3 days. About 3 days ago, as of this recording, unexpectedly got a puppy. He is 13 weeks old. So he's very rambunctious, makes lots of noise, loves to play, completely changed the energy in the house, especially with the other dogs. His name is Finn, by the way. FN2187 for those of you guys who are Star Wars fans. It's changed the energy, and so I've had to kind of scooch away here for a few minutes to record this episode. And that's another reason why this episode is late. Having the 13-week-old and of course with my other dogs, it's required that I divert my attention and focus to the care of the dogs. And of course I love it, right? Like, I wouldn't do it if I didn't. My dogs are my life. We have 5 dogs now, again, spanning from the age of 13 weeks, who is Finn, the new puppy. And then our oldest is 18 years, Nugget. So just between those two, you can imagine how much care and attention those two need. And then, of course, the other 3 dogs. So I haven't been able to give as much focus to the other things that I normally do. Just my normal work. This podcast obviously is late. Even the work I do around the mountain, I haven't been able to give as much attention to as we adjust to the new puppy. And again, I'm totally okay with it, right? Like it's by choice, and I wouldn't have it any other way, right? And you might be saying, well, Ronnie, you always talk about productivity and output and efficiency. If all of that is out the window, then like, what's the real conversation? Well, I wanted to bring it up today because I want to make sure all the conversations we've been having about productivity and efficiency and output and all that stuff and achievement and setting goals, I want to make sure that there's a balanced context behind that, right? I was listening to an episode of Jessica Zweig's Spiritual Hustler podcast. It's one of her more recent episodes, and her guests in this episode talked about how we should create a state of being where we don't feel guilty about taking a day off, right? Taking a day off from the frenetic hustle and bustle that we can easily get pulled into without knowing it. And my situation has really reminded me of that. Again, I caught myself before I would listen to that episode. I caught myself feeling incredibly unproductive, and it was really not fair, right? It was really not fair because I was still doing, technically I was still doing a lot of things, but it was different things. And actually, in the grand scheme of things, it was things that mattered more to me, i.e. my dogs and taking care of them. And of course, spending time with my friends and family who are here at the house. Those are the things that I think or at least the type of experiences and the type of feelings that I do all of this other stuff with social media and with marketing and with my businesses and with this, even with this podcast. Those are the reasons why I do why I do those things in the first place, right? So that I can spend my time just hanging out with my dogs for days on end without feeling guilty about not being productive, right? And so it goes back to, again, the conversation about productivity and output and efficiency that we've been having. Again, I want to make sure that you have proper context around that, because that is all yang energy, right? Yin and yang, right? We were talking about the divine feminine, divine masculine, which is okay. Like, neither of those two energies are more wrong or right than the other. However, we should strive for more balance, because if we get pulled too far into the yang energy and the hustle and the production and the output, we can forget the other side, right? And what tends to happen is we get pulled further and further into kind of the material realm, the physical realm of achievement. We're striving for, of course, more material gains, and we're striving for more accolades and more titles, and it's like, compared to what and compared to who, right? Like, what's the context, not context, what's the contest, right? Who's like it's all about, like, it becomes all about winning, and again, it roots us deeper and deeper into this physical realm. And what's important to understand is, yes, we are physical beings in this existence, but we're so much more than that, right? There are parts of us that extend well beyond this physical being. So, meeting our physical needs, for one, once you have those basic things met, then we can really start focusing on expanding our spiritual kind of ability to be grounded in our true selves, right? Our true selves. And we can do that. We can get at least closer to that by understanding that there is that balance between the yin and the yang. And it isn't so much just working for the outcomes, just working for the goals. Of course, those are important, right? You have to have goals. I always talk about goals. I talk about productivity. I talked about efficiency. All those things are required to keep forward motion happening and to keep us kind of in this growth state. However, the destination, there is no destination, I guess is what I'm trying to say, right? There's no, once you achieve a thing, it's gone, it's done. And what ends up happening, especially in cases of, material accomplishments and material attainment, it just ends up being a very, very unfulfilling journey, right? Because you're only focused on attaining a material thing, which doesn't last, and then therefore again is unfulfilling. So, like what Jessica, I love what her and her guests were talking about. It really is all about creating the kind of life experience that you want to have, and expanding into your fullest potential as a spiritual being, as opposed to just going for physical and material gains, right? Going back to the dogs, then, it's how the dogs make me feel, right? They bring me joy, they bring me happiness, they bring me companionship, and of course I try to return all that, and so, like, that feeling, if you really kind of intuitively tap into the things that you love and enjoy and you find joy in, it's in creating more of that I think really brings fulfillment and expands you spiritually, and then you create and you attract from a more balanced standpoint, as opposed to strong arming outcomes just through productivity and output and efficiency, and then you end up getting pulled into further and further into that physical and material realm, like I said earlier. And when I say chasing a certain feeling and a certain emotional state, I'm not talking about like pleasure seeking or distraction or escapism, or like things that might be more hedonic in nature, but really just kind of like the emotional states that bring you fulfillment, and in the time that we have here in this existence, because again, it's limited, right? So really kind of tap into that, right? Tap into those things, and set your goals and your targets so that you can have more of that kind of experience, and realize that there is no there, right? Like and they talk about that specifically. They say that specifically in the in that episode, and I'll reference the episode in the show notes. I'll leave the link. But there is no there is no destination, and that's not they're not the first people I've heard coin that phrase. I've heard Mr. Rod Hairston, another amazing individual who has taught me so much. He was talking about there is no there years ago, right? And there really is no there, right? In terms of our journey, it's all about the journey, as cliche as it sounds. The destination, or the goals that we set for ourselves are really just mile markers, and it's the journey and how we feel and who we become, and that movement and that forward progression into mastery, as opposed to attainment, that I think creates much more fulfillment, right? Much more fulfillment. So hopefully that makes sense, right? Both things are necessary. Setting goals are necessary. Productivity, efficiency, output, all necessary, but they have to be balanced by the reason, or balanced with the reason why you're doing those things in the first place, right? And that, I think, is to have a more fulfilled experience in this really actually fleeting and short time that we have in this existence, while also expanding yourself spiritually, and touching on the aspects of us that you can't really tap into necessarily in this physical plane. Right, I know it's kind of far out there for today's topic, but I wanted to touch on it because I found myself again feeling a tinge of guilt for not being as productive as I usually am. But when I think about it, even though this episode's late, even though I haven't necessarily been doing my quote unquote work in the last couple of days since we got the new puppy, I've gotten a lot done. I've gotten a lot done. I've gotten a lot done in terms of creating the type of experience and emotional journey that I care to have while I'm here on this rock, right? While I'm here on this rock. So that's it. Again, let me know what you think. Leave it in the comment section of this video. And if you're watching the video version, that is, and if you're listening to this on the podcast version, please feel free to watch the YouTube version. Redefined, it's easy to find, but also vice versa. If you're watching the video version of this and you want to just follow the podcast version when you can't watch a video, then go pop over and watch the podcast. I didn't want to miss today necessarily. I could have easily skipped today, but I didn't want to miss today. Because I know with long form, especially things like podcast, YouTube videos, even blogs, consistency is really important to creating forward momentum and growth in those things. But that's a whole different conversation. All right, so that's it. Remember, there is no there. Work towards mastery, not attainment, and you'll end up having the life experience that you want to have. Right? Feel your way through life. That's it. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you maybe Thursday. I don't know. We'll see. But hopefully I'll be able to get an episode out on Thursday. But either ways, until the next time, till then, if it happens Thursday or it happens next Tuesday, one way or the other, we'll catch you with a fresh new one. So until then, be well, be safe. We'll see you in the next episode.